Today is June 24th, 2026. As commercial satellite feeds and marine traffic data continue to track dozens of oil tankers and LNG carriers moving through the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz without major interruption for the third consecutive day following the interim memorandum signed between the United States and Iran, defense analysts monitoring open-source intelligence from CENTCOM updates and Iranian state media statements note that shipping volumes have rebounded toward 22nd-year times.
The tension between Iran and America is reaching a whole new level, and the world is divided. But the real question is, who do you stand with? America has official live voting open right now to see where the public support lies. If you love America and want to show your support, go to the description or the pinned comment right now. If you are using an Android, click the Android link, and if you are on an iPhone, click the iOS link. Just complete the quick 1-minute verification to make your vote count officially, and let's show the strength of America. Go vote now.
Pre-conflict levels, though underlying tensions from recent military exchanges remain unresolved, with U.S. naval assets, including Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, and support vessels maintaining a visible presence to ensure safe passage amid ongoing demining operations. The agreement reached in mid-June has allowed for the gradual reopening of this critical choke point, which handles roughly 1/5 of global oil and natural gas transit. But Iranian officials from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have continued to issue warnings about potential threats from lingering sea mines and have pushed for further sanctions relief as nuclear negotiations proceed in Switzerland. In the broader context of the 2025 to 2026 period of heightened conflict that saw U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities in June 2025, followed by retaliatory actions and a series of escalations involving drone attacks on commercial shipping, the current stabilization phase reflects a delicate balance where American military pressure through operations like the escort of tankers and degradation of Iranian naval capabilities has contributed to forcing Tehran back toward dialogue, while economic pressures from disrupted energy flows have rippled across global markets, raising prices for consumers in Europe and Asia. Reports from credible sources indicate that nearly 24 vessels transited the strait in recent 24-hour periods, with traffic steady despite earlier Iranian declarations of closure in response to perceived violations of ceasefires in related regional theaters such as Lebanon. This situation underscores the interconnected nature of Middle East dynamics, where disruptions in Hormuz directly impact energy security for nations dependent on Gulf exports, including major importers like China and India, whose economies have faced volatility from insurance spikes and rerouting costs during peak confrontation phases earlier this year. If you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel for continued unfiltered updates on these evolving global power shifts. As U.S. and Iranian negotiators engage in talks mediated by parties including Pakistan and Qatar focusing on nuclear program limits, sanctions easing, and safe navigation protocols, military movements persist with American forces having conducted targeted strikes on surveillance sites near Qeshm Island and other locations to counter threats to merchant vessels, actions that have been framed as proportional responses to IRGC attempts to board or attack shipping. The historical precedent of Iran's ability to threaten closure through mining and fast attack boats, as seen in earlier incidents, has shaped current strategies where the U.S. Navy's deployment of mine-clearing assets and underwater drones plays a key role in restoring confidence for international shipping companies wary of war risk premiums that surged dramatically after February 2026 events. Economically, the interim deal promises relief by aiming to lift blockades on Iranian ports and normalize traffic within a 30-day window. But experts tracking open-source satellite imagery from providers like commercial platforms highlight that full demining remains a complex challenge given the volume of potential hazards laid during active phases of confrontation. This pressure has exposed vulnerabilities in Iran's military posture, particularly after U.S. operations degraded elements of its navy and air defense systems, leading to internal discussions within Tehran about balancing hardline positions from the IRGC with pragmatic needs for economic recovery. Geopolitically, the Hormuz situation links to wider tensions, including the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where elevated energy prices have strained European allies supporting Kyiv and influenced NATO resource allocations as focus shifts toward potential supply diversifications. In parallel, U.S.-China dynamics over the South China Sea and Taiwan see indirect effects as Beijing monitors American naval commitments in the Gulf, which could affect deployment flexibility elsewhere. Russian strategies in Crimea and interactions with Iranian drone supplies add another layer as Moscow benefits from higher oil revenues during periods of Gulf instability. What stands out in verified reports is how markets reacted preemptively to news of the memorandum, with oil futures stabilizing but remaining sensitive to any renewed threats or delays in implementation. Continuing through this narrative of controlled de-escalation yet persistent risks, open-source analysts have pointed to specific assets like Virginia-class submarines and carrier strike group elements providing deterrence, while Iranian responses have involved selective leaks and state media narratives emphasizing sovereignty over the waterway. The psychology within institutions reveals caution from both sides, with U.S. officials avoiding overcommitment statements and Iranian counterparts highlighting internal power balances that could influence negotiation firmness. Satellite observations confirm increased transits, but also note ongoing naval shadowing activities that keep commanders on alert for miscalculations. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay ahead of these critical developments. Further economic impacts include effects on global trade routes, where rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope during closure threats added significant fuel and time costs for tankers, affecting everything from fertilizer prices impacting agriculture in vulnerable regions to broader inflationary pressures felt in developing economies. Historical examples such as the 1980s tanker war provide context for understanding current mine threats and the role of international coalitions in maintaining open sea lanes, though today's environment incorporates advanced drone and electronic warfare elements, complicating traditional responses. Military doctrine emphasizes the importance of chokepoint security, with the U.S. leveraging Aegis-equipped ships and air assets like FA-18 Super Hornets for overwatch, while IRGC tactics have historically relied on asymmetric tools, including speedboats and coastal missile batteries, many of which faced attrition in recent operations. As talks progress toward potential longer-term agreements, the focus remains on verifiable limits to Iran's nuclear activities, alongside guarantees for peaceful transit, a framework that could reshape alliances across the Middle East, including with Gulf states concerned about long-term stability. Unresolved elements such as asset releases and compensation demands from Tehran introduce uncertainties that keep defense planners engaged in contingency preparations. The situation in Ukraine continues to intersect as energy market fluctuations influence Russia's war economy and Western sanction enforcement, while China-Taiwan frictions see Washington balancing commitments across theaters. In the strait itself, the presence of A-10 Warthogs and Apache helicopters in support roles during earlier phases illustrated the multi-domain approach taken to counter ground-based threats and protect logistics corridors. Publicly available intelligence summaries indicate that while major combat has subsided, the potential for accidental escalations from overloaded radar environments or misidentified contacts persists as a key operational concern. Shifting to alliance dynamics, European nations have expressed relief at resumed flows given their reliance on diversified supplies post-Russia disruptions, but remain vigilant about NATO's southern flank exposures. Pentagon assessments grounded in open sources stress the success of recent escorts in facilitating over 100 vessel passages in preceding weeks, demonstrating effective deterrence without full-scale engagement. Yet, Iranian internal struggles between reformist elements seeking economic relief and hardliners advocating resistance create a fluid negotiating environment where selective public statements mask private calculations. This layered reality highlights how one regional waterway can amplify global power struggles, affecting stock markets, commodity prices, and diplomatic initiatives worldwide. Defense technology advancements like improved mine detection robots and surveillance drones have played understated but vital roles in the current stabilization, allowing safer resumption of trade. Economic data from the period shows sharp but temporary spikes in Brent crude during peak threats, underscoring the vulnerability of interconnected systems. And if you are finding value in this detailed daily breakdown, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more in-depth geopolitical intelligence. Looking ahead, the coming weeks will test the durability of the memorandum as nuclear discussions intensify in Switzerland, with potential breakthroughs or setbacks hinging on mutual concessions around enrichment levels and inspection regimes. Regional powers including Israel maintain close watch given linkages to Lebanon ceasefires and broader security architectures. Military movements remain observable through commercial tracking, with U.S. forces adjusting positions to support deconfliction hotlines established under the deal. The IRGC's continued monitoring of tanker routes introduces ongoing low-level risks that require careful management to prevent any single incident from unraveling progress. Geopolitical forecasting based on patterns from similar historical pauses suggests that sustained diplomatic momentum could lead to broader sanctions relief, but any perceived weakness might embolden asymmetric responses elsewhere. In terms of energy markets, the steady transit has helped ease immediate pressures on LNG supplies, critical for winter preparations in key consuming regions, while also influencing production decisions among OPEC+ members navigating these shifts. Intelligence interpretations of satellite imagery reveal no large-scale redeployments of heavy Iranian assets near the strait at present, but coastal fortifications and mobile systems warrant continued attention. The human element in command decisions reflects institutional fears of uncontrolled escalation, where political leaders on all sides seek to project strength without inviting wider conflict. Global trade implications extend to supply chains for critical goods, where delays in Gulf shipping previously cascaded into higher costs for everything from electronics components to food staples. As the situation evolves, open-source verification through multiple platforms allows independent analysts to cross-check official narratives, exposing occasional discrepancies that inform public understanding. The interconnected web means Hormuz stability supports efforts in Ukraine by moderating energy costs that fund military sustainment on various sides, and affects U.S. posture toward China by